Hi, welcome to today's event to Electrify Opportunity Village. I'm Dan Bryant, the Executive Director of SquareOne Villages, and really thrilled that you joined us today. I'd like to give you just a little bit of history about the village and how we came to this point. We started back in 2013. We went to the City Council with just an idea for what we could do to make life a little easier for some of our friends who had no shelter in our community. We asked the city for a piece of land, 1 acre, that we could lease for $1 a year. And they identified this property, gave us 1 year as a pilot project, and here we are 8 years later. We're still here, having demonstrated the success of the project. And we built it up over about 9 months before we got to the full size. And ever since then, though, we have continued to add new things to the village as we saw the need or just various opportunities that arose over the years. Things like this office building that our friend Alex Daniel, who actually led the construction of many of our sleeping cabins, built for us as a prototype of what a tiny home, a true home with a bathroom and a little kitchenette would look like if we built the smallest home we possibly could. We now use it as our office. It was never plumbed, but it does have electricity. Then we had gazebos built by students from a college in northern Idaho who came and spent their spring break doing work for us. We also have a tool trailer that was built by students at the University of Oregon and donated to us. There's also been a variety of services that have been added over the years. So last year, Peace Health began sending some healthcare workers to the village once a month to meet with villagers to talk about their healthcare needs. We have a wonderful volunteer who did a lot of our plumbing here and at Emerald Village, John the plumber. He's now John the former plumber, having retired, but he has become our volunteer maintenance man, leading a variety of different maintenance projects to keep the village in top shape, because after all, after 8 years, you know, things break and wear out, and so we really appreciate his assistance. We had a group that just came to us, I think it was in our first year, towards the end of that first year, with a tiny home they built on wheels. And it was a trade high school from Berkeley, California, so we call it the Berkeley. And it was designed to have solar power, but they didn't have funds for the solar panels and the batteries, and neither did we at the time. Well, thanks to a donation, we just recently got those panels and batteries and got that all hooked up so it now has solar power. We have another group from the University of Oregon that had an idea for a fundraising project to grow redwood trees using recycled gray water, and came and started to get that all set up for us, planted the trees, and then the pandemic hit and everything was put on hold. They plan to come back and finish that project. Meanwhile, our redwood trees are looking quite nice and probably will be ready to be sold soon to bring in a little bit of income to support the village. But the one thing we really wanted to add and hoped to add was electricity for the village. We did have a group come from Portland, a Jewish social justice group of young adults called Tinvu, who had this idea for how to solarize sleeping cabins all around Portland, and they've been working hard to do that, and they came to us and said, can we do that for you? And so they helped us install 20 sets of solar panels to provide solar power to 20 of our units. The next step now is to provide electricity so that we can provide heat, because the solar power alone is not sufficient for a heater. So all these 8 years, most of our units have been without heat. We do have electricity in our bathhouse and in the common areas, and so there is heat in certain places, but not in most of the sleeping cabins. So we're asking for your help to do that so that we can make winter a little nicer for our folks, that they can have heat in their sleeping cabins. There is a donate button on the screen if you're watching on our website where you can click to make that donation. You can donate by text by texting the word Electrify to 44321. You can always send us a check, do it the old-fashioned way, that still works, to SquareOne Villages at 15 North Polk, Eugene, 97402. But whatever means that you can to make that donation, we're hoping to raise $25,000 so that we can electrify the village and provide heat for all our units this winter. So we really appreciate your support to make that possible. You're going to hear from some of our villagers themselves. You'll have a chance to take a little virtual tour of the village. And right now I'd like to introduce our housing navigator who works with our villagers to help them transition out to do whatever it is that they need to do, and filling out the paperwork and getting all of the things ready in order to transition into permanent housing. Connor's been a great addition to our program, supported through your donations as well as from some grants, and we really have gained a lot from his work with our villagers and helping people to transition out. So thank you very much for joining us, and stay online here to watch the rest of today's event.
So what's it like being a housing navigator for Opportunity Village?
Being a housing navigator at Opportunity Village is a really rewarding experience and also challenging at times, but it's great to be able to help people get into housing.
What are some of the challenges of being the housing navigator here?
There's a lot of challenges, but I think some of the main ones for me is, being patient with kind of navigating through bureaucracies to help people get benefits and get into housing. A lot of filling out different types of applications, and making phone calls to check on applications over and over again, and maybe sometimes getting multiple different answers from different people at the same agency, and kind of having to sort through all that and make sure you're getting the right information. And sometimes you'll get a letter that says, we need this in like 5 days, or you aren't going to be accepted or approved or something, and you'll get it in, then you won't hear another thing for like 4 or 5 months, and you just kind of have to get used to that kind of grind of hurry up and wait.
Is it a lot of work to be for a resident to be on a wait list? What kinds of things do they have to do?
Yeah, so to get on a wait list for a lot of different affordable housing opportunities like Section 8 housing or tax credit based housing, since there's such a high demand for it, just getting onto a wait list can be really challenging because it's usually on a lottery basis or first come, first serve basis. So just getting onto the wait list can take a lot of tries. And then once you are on that wait list, you have to continue to stay in touch with that organization and respond to any communication that they send your way until you get chosen, which could be over the course of several years. So that's really difficult, especially for someone who might be going through phones or like not have a email address or even just an address to receive mail that's constantly changing. They have to constantly be updating that with the organization, or have somewhere like Opportunity Village where they have kind of like a stable place to stay while they're going through that process. One of the things that Opportunity Village offers is a stable address to receive mail.
What are some of the common barriers to housing that people are facing?
Housing's really expensive, so income is really hard to make enough money to not only pay rent, but also, make the initial deposit and first rent, last month rent payments that most landlords require when you're moving in. And so if you're disabled and you're getting SSI, that's only $794 a month. So that's not enough for basically any kind of like one bedroom or studio apartment in Eugene. So that's really challenging for people. Also, to apply for housing, you have to have, documentation such as your birth certificate, your state ID, your driver's license, social security card, and a lot of people lose track of those things and need help getting those things. And it can be really difficult. If you've lost all your form of identification, getting that first one can be hard because you have to have something to prove who you are. So going through that process is definitely a barrier.
Do people have to show previous documentation of where they've lived or paid rent in the past?
Yeah, like usually when you fill out a housing application, you're required to provide references, previous landlords, and for people who've been experiencing homelessness for a period of time, that's often hard to provide, but staying at Opportunity Village does give them something that they can provide when they're filling out those applications.
What would you say are the rewarding parts of your job?
Whenever someone gets into housing, that's always a super exciting thing because that's the ultimate goal. We just had a couple here get into housing and I felt really happy for them. It just all of a sudden happened and they had a place to go. And also just like on the journey of getting there, helping people get benefits. I assist people with disability applications and job applications, getting health insurance, even just setting up doctor's appointments or finding out how they can see a counselor, things like that. And when I can help provide that to someone, it feels really good. I enjoy getting to know everyone at the village and building a relationship with them and getting to hear their story and just be able to lend my ear to them when they're going through something hard or going through something exciting too. So I really enjoy getting to know everyone here at the village.
Hello and welcome to Opportunity Village. My name's Amanda Dellinger and I'm the Community Relations Director for SquareOne Villages. And I'm going to take you on a tour of the village. Let's check it out. So here's the front desk, and this is staffed by residents themselves to ensure the safety of the village. And then next we have we call this the prototype. And right next to the prototype we have some outdoor seating space. This is where village meetings will happen often. And then we also have the tool storage trailer right behind that. And here is our community yurt. This is where people can gather, they can have their morning coffee. This does have a wood-burning stove inside of it, as well as couches and places for people to sit. It's kind of like the community living room, if you will. Here we have a nice ring of Conestoga huts. You can see that people decorate them in different ways and use a little bit of the outside covered area to store some of their things, which is nice to have a little bit of storage. Here's our community kitchen here. This is an outdoor kitchen. And during COVID times, we've recently put up this very large tent for people to have more meeting space or places to eat. Here we have one of our little kitchen areas where we have refrigerator and freezer, also a deep chest freezer, and then a ton of food storage. We're our food pantry for food for Lane County, so residents have all kinds of options for canned foods and dried beans and all kinds of options in here that they can have. So here you can see several more Conestogas, and as we do a 360 here, you start to see some of these other really sweet houses and even some of the little gardens that we have on this side of the village. And next you'll hear from 3 Opportunity Village residents about how living here has impacted their lives and also why the shelter alternative is so important to our community here. Can you tell us about what it was like for you before you came to Opportunity Village?
I was kind of stuck in a cycle of, I guess, committing crimes to make ends meet. And I was trying to start a new life, but I couldn't do it in the area that I was in. It wasn't a thing. And my dad was staying here, so he got me a bus ticket here, and it really has changed everything in my life being here.
So where would you be if you weren't here?
No idea. I was living out of a vehicle when I first got here, which was a nightmare. I have a lot of psychological conditions that, make... I was basically on display all the time, like 4 windows on all sides of me, and, it didn't sit well with my head, that's for sure. And so it was a nightmare. I can't really say for sure. I know I'm not, cut out to be living next to the river or anything like that, but I'm definitely grateful for everything the village has done for me since I've been here.
How is living at Opportunity Village helping you stabilize and get ready to transition into permanent housing?
Since I've been here, I've had the opportunity to find work. I've had the opportunity to get into counseling and working with a counselor and actually getting past a lot of trauma that I didn't even realize was a thing until I got here. I've had assistance with getting on OHP and just getting things back to where I can be stable enough on my own to have housing. It was refreshing to get a job finally too. It was very hard for a long time to find work because of my past criminal history and lack of work history because I was too busy running around doing stupid stuff. I didn't have a chance to actually be in any one place and just be. That's one thing that Opportunity Village provided. It gave me a place to just be. I didn't have to worry about all these, factors like where am I going to sleep tonight? Where am I going to keep my stuff? Where am I going to, how am I going to get my clothes washed? Or, that. It's all provided so that all I had to do was just be. And then from there I could find out what I wanted to do and how I was going to do it. And it's really nice to have a place to be okay.
So where do you hope you see yourself after this?
I actually met somebody since I've been here. And she's actually starting a nonprofit similar to this targeted at youth, which is cool. I mean, a lot of kids, if they run away, they're allowed to run away, and that's okay. But they don't. It's legal to house them, and they need a place that's safe. And it's ridiculous to think that you can't give them a safe place or provide them a safe place unless you jump through all these legal hoops and barricades. And so she's gonna try and offer something like that. And I mean, that's ultimately what we're working towards. And finding housing, of course, for her, because she has 2 disabled kids, and it's hard as a single parent to provide anything for them. But she's doing a good job of it.
Do you think there's a common misunderstanding of homelessness? Who experiences it? And can you share your thoughts on this?
Absolutely. One of the common misconceptions about homeless people is that they're all on drugs and that's why they're homeless. What a lot of people don't realize is a lot of people don't get on drugs until they're homeless, because it's hard to even imagine coming back from being that low. When you're sleeping on the street, I've seen people sleeping in front of storefronts with just a blanket over them. I've seen people with all their stuff trying to keep it all together, and they look frantic, and it's because the state of mind that it puts you in it's you against the world. That's not ever any place you want to be.
Why do you think it's important that shelter options like Opportunity Village are available for people in our community who are navigating homelessness?
Well, without options, you can't expect anything to actually, like, how can you expect somebody to come from the lowest tier of society and get back on their feet and get back into society in any productive or, sustainable manner? Like, how can you expect somebody to come back from nothing without any kind of hand up? And I know it seems ridiculous to think that they need a hand up, but like, until you've been there, you don't, like, I don't know. It's really hard to even survive off of food stamps when you're living on the street, because guess what? You're going to be eating, you know, non-perishable food items and stuff that you can make really quick, and you don't have a kitchen or anything. So all of a sudden the price of everything's going to go up because you're going to be getting stuff at gas stations that's already pre-cooked, or, you know, whatever. It's a hard way to live. It's a really hard way to live.
Can you tell us about what it was like before you came to Opportunity Village?
Yeah. I'm in a weird situation. It's, I would say, to put it correctly, I really have that same less is more. I had more, but it was at a time with my kids. And what I had, I just passed it to them.
Where do you hope to see yourself after this?
I don't know. You see, I'm an extreme person in the here and now with a command view of the soon to be, and that's all I live. I keep that simple tone, so I don't worry about what's in the past, because that's gone. I can't change that. And the future hasn't happened yet, so I'm not gonna bust my brains thinking about it, so until it happens.
Do you think that there's a common misunderstanding of homelessness and who experiences it?
Well, everywhere where you go in the United States, and this lower 48, it doesn't matter which city, what village, what hamlet, what town, you're gonna have someone destitute and living on the street. It's how the system is paired up for it right now.
Why do you think it's important that shelter options like Opportunity Village are available for people in our community who are navigating homelessness?
Well, because homelessness is going to be a major reality. Remember when they said to have a lower class? Homelessness never had a class, right? Based upon the current situations and what's going to happen, if you can see the scenarios happen, homelessness will have a class of its own. It'll be like the new lower class, because basically everything is going to cost too damn high. There's people in the cities right now living in their cars and got full-time jobs. So what that tells you right there, people living on the street, that's just going to be the new lower class. You know, if you want to be middle class, then you're going to have to be living inside, but they going to be struggling as just more like 1-2 paychecks away from being on the street. And that's going to be like the common man's reality there. Now, if I can see any positive solutions coming out of this, I would love to stand up and salute it, but right now, I don't see any solutions coming up. Therefore, you have to use unconventional measures for this. It's something that you can think outside the box. That's why it's considered, see, this community right here, if you realize it's something outside the box. You know, this is something people go now go, wow, yes, you can do that, can you? Something outside the box. You have to have more outside the box thinking.
Can you tell us about what it was like for you before you came to Opportunity Village?
Yes, before we got here, we were in a van. My husband worked the entire time we were homeless, which was about a year. And I would go to the library, and I would go look for places to find a place for us. Even so that he had income and I didn't, it paid for the gas, it paid for to eat, and it was very difficult. We were willing to do whatever it took to find a place, and we didn't know about this place. But we finally went to the mission, and I found a pamphlet, and we walked over here and put the application in, and we got a call back. It saved us. It really did. I can't imagine where we'd be right now without Opportunity Village.
Was there anything that surprised you about being here?
The staff. I think that the staff surprised me. How kind and compassionate staff were here. Willing to go the extra mile to help you find the resources you need, to help you provide the resources you need, and to help you accomplish what it is you need to achieve in order to move on from here.
Where would you be if you weren't here?
Knowing myself, I know I'm a very determined person, but considering what the economic, everything with COVID and everything going on out here, I don't know. It came after we got here, COVID, but considering what was going on already, I really don't know what our options would have been. It would probably been the same, except for my husband's a seasonal worker, painter. I don't know what it would have been like there in the fall. It would have been much worse. I know that the resources out there are far less. I only hope that there are more opportunities like Opportunity Village out there.
How is living at Opportunity Village helping you stabilize and get ready to transition into permanent housing?
It's helped us to come up with a plan and our goals with the housing coordinator, and we pretty much have already done everything we needed in our plan, save for his last hip replacement surgery. COVID kind of came in, but I'm waiting for my final decision for Social Security disability, and it could take up to another 60 days. That is the only thing that has not come along to plan so far. I mean, as far as the decision. But I feel where there's a will, there's a way. We'll figure it out one way or another. But without being able to come up with a goal, a plan to achieve these goals, it's hard to do that when you're in a van and you have no idea what you're going to do the next day. It's very hard. So it was very easy to simplify that when you really know what you need to do in order to accomplish those goals.
So where do you hope to see yourself after this?
I hope to see us in our own home. Beyond that, I have very, very deep-rooted love for this place. I want to give back any way I can. I do what I can all the time. I feel very strongly for, SquareOne, and I'll do anything I can to help, and I hope anybody else can.
Do you think there's a common misunderstanding of homelessness and who experiences it? Can you share your thoughts on this?
Yes, I think people think homelessness is the drunk on the corner, the drug addict, the people that want to try to just get what they can for free and not do the work. That old saying, one paycheck away, it's actually true. That's all that happened with us. It was one paycheck away, being laid off, and I don't know anybody that would want to be homeless, but I do know me and my husband or our team, we're willing to do what it takes to do the work. And as long as there is an avenue to do that, I don't see that anybody couldn't accomplish the goals they set out to do, become stable. That's what our goal is, to be stable, to have a home. Everybody has a family, I'd hope, somewhere, and that's what's important. To have a home, have family, have an income, and to be productive.
Why do you think it's important that shelter options like Opportunity Village are available for people in our community who are navigating homelessness?
Because without Opportunity Village, people are going to slide far farther through the cracks. You know, I believe that you just have to really navigate what you can through this, you know, system as far as what's available, and not give up. Because I know that if not for Opportunity Village, we were at that edge, at that very, very edge, where there was nothing left. There's not the programs. I used to work for St. Vincent de Paul. I worked for Goodwill. I loved working with the handicapped. But then at the end of the day, when it happens to you, and at this day and age, the opportunity is not there. So whatever you can do to help yourself, if you can find it, especially with a program like Opportunity Village, they give you all you need, all the tools that you can use in order to help yourself. And I highly recommend Opportunity Village. This is one of a kind program.
Is there anything else you'd like to share about your time here?
Me and my husband are highly motivated, and just want to get back to a life where we can concentrate on our kids and grandkids. We're willing to do the work, and we just want to move on. If not for this place, it wouldn't have happened.
Hello again. We're just thrilled to see Dina and her husband moving into their own place. And how wonderful is it that Peter and his girlfriend are so committed to supporting unhoused youth in our community. And Adam's right, isn't he? That Opportunity Village is an out-of-the-box solution to the homelessness crisis that we're in. It costs approximately $10 a day to support and shelter someone at Opportunity Village, and that includes a wide range of things, from laundry services to transition plan support and removing barriers. Opportunity Village receives no public subsidy except for the land that it currently resides on, so therefore we rely on generous donations from community members like you to sustain this critical work. As Dan mentioned, we're seeking to raise $25,000. And so I invite you to invest in this important shelter alternative in our community. You can become an Opportunity Champion by signing up for a monthly donation, or you can give a one-time gift by clicking the button below, or you can text Electrify to 44321, or of course you could send us a check to 15 North Polk Street, Eugene 97402. And thank you so much for joining us tonight. Don't forget to follow SquareOne Villages on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. And remember, it takes a community to sustain a village.
So, thank you so much, Amanda. Like many of you, that was the first time I saw those three stories from Peter, Adam, and Dina, and boy, I was touched. This is why we do this work, to help out such great people who deserve a chance to get a new start, and it's just a pleasure at SquareOne to be able to do that. So I'm here to answer some questions that you can ask by the chat function in YouTube or on our website, Facebook, what have you, and staff are going to pass those on to us. Let me first of all ask, well, Amanda here has a question for us to talk about what it means that the village is self-managed. That has evolved over time. When we first started the village, it was all volunteer run. For our first couple of years of our nonprofit, all volunteers. And we set up the village to have a village council to make the key decisions day to day. And over time, that model has evolved to a little bit more staff input. So it's more of a co-managed rather than self-managed. So we now have a village coordinator, just half-time, who's there at the village, Raquel Diaz, who does a wonderful job. She's one of the ones I think was referred to as being so kind and compassionate, and really does her best, along with Connor, our housing navigator. But we rely on the villagers to perform basic tasks to help keep the village clean, to do some of the maintenance work, to staff the hut at the gate. It's staffed 24/7. There's a villager even that sleeps there overnight. That's really key to the operation of the village. So we work with the villagers, involve the villagers in making those decisions and carrying out those basic tasks. So it's evolved, as I say, from the beginning, from being 100% self-managed and with volunteers to more co-managed with the staff and the villagers working together. Another question that had came up to me even before today, when some folk saw this being advertised, was why now? And why didn't we do this a long time ago? Good question, right? And there's some historical reasons for that, because again, when we began, we were a grassroots group. We literally only had $11,000 in the bank through some fundraising that we had done over a number of months, 5 or 6 months, that we were working on raising funds. And we started with volunteers and villagers themselves that we had worked with for several months in making the plans for this, built the first couple of huts. Donations started pouring in. By the end of the 9 months it took us to build it, it was over $200,000 that we had raised, both in in-kind donations as well as in cash. But it took us that long to build the village out. And then over time, over the next several years, we just kept adding various different things. But we had one big stumbling block in that we're operating on city land, and we were operating on a year-to-year lease. The city at one point extended that to 2 years, and then last year said 3 more years, and that may be it. And when we asked ourselves of what would it take to electrify the village, part of the problem was the cost of doing that, and plus the fact that we were literally putting money into the ground that we could not regain the investment from, because it's not our property. And so we struck a deal just a couple of months ago with the city that they would be willing to reimburse us for anything that we put into the ground, so that investment would not be lost. Therefore, we felt a little more confident about proceeding with that work, and the cost of doing that, and also with our electrician, discovered some things that we could do to do this all to code. It took us a while to figure out how to do that with tiny little structures like this. So we decided now's the time's right. There's just too many difficulties we have found over the years in just operating a shelter without heat, that we feel like it's really critical to be able to have heat. One of the things we've discovered is that any kind of federal support that we might get for running the shelter is dependent on that. Any money that comes from HUD that is used for shelter requires heat. And it makes sense, and particularly in an environment where you have cold winters, that the federal government does not want to provide money for shelters that don't provide such a basic amenity. So, and the other thing was actually due to COVID that we got some grants, and we're able to use some of that grant money for this purpose. So it was just all these different factors that came together that make it possible. Summer has a question. Are there any new villages being planned for the future? Well, we are constantly working. Our organization morphed from being strictly transitional shelter to becoming an affordable housing agency. We discovered after our first year and a half that it was very difficult for our villagers to move out because there was literally no place to move to. So we started building permanent housing using similar concepts of a village. We built Emerald Village over a period of several years, bought property in 2015, opened it in 2018. That is a true permanent home, tiny homes of 160 to 300 square feet, but with full bath and kitchenettes. And then Cottage Village, that's actually being finished up right now, 13 tiny homes in Cottage Grove. 9 of those are now occupied. 4 more will be occupied here this summer. So another permanent project. We have another project being planned. We're in the process of purchasing property in the Santa Clara neighborhood, a couple of acres where we hope to build 50 to 60 or maybe last plans I saw, possibly up to 70, again, permanent homes, not transitional shelter. Then we have added micro camps. We now have 4 micro camps, 6 each, with the exception of one that's 3 each. 2 of those sites are for families that we're operating under contract with the county. 2 of the sites for adults. One of those micro camps is on property that was donated to us last year, where we also hope to build another village of permanent homes. And we're hoping to expand that. And we're also working with other communities around the state, in particular right now in Bend, that's working to replicate Opportunity Village with 20 campsites with probably Conestoga huts or pallet shelters, if you've seen those, and RVs. So working all over the place, literally, in other states as well, and just providing consultation to assist them in setting up similar projects. How long can someone stay at the village? Michelle asks, at Opportunity Village. We don't limit the stay to say we expect you to be out within a certain period of time, 12 months, 18 months, whatever the case is. Instead, we say we expect you to be working on a plan. So as long as you are working on that plan, we'll stick with you as long as it takes. So our average is more in the neighborhood of 18 months we find that it takes for most folk to be able to transition out. But we have some folk that have been there for over 5 years, and others that are only need a couple of months before they're able to transition out. So it varies greatly, depends on each individual, what their needs are, what resources that they already have that they bring to it. We have quite a few villagers that have jobs and so already have income, others that come in with absolutely no income. And so obviously with that person with no income, it's just going to take longer to get them to that point to find the housing that they need. Someone who's got a job, has pretty steady income, may not take as long. So it varies from case to case. We meet with the villagers. Connor in particular meets with the villagers every 90 days to do a review. How are you doing on your goals? And then more often, depending on what the situation is and what help they request, to try to help them to transition out. So it's a lot of work, and we couldn't do it without all the support that we have from so many people in our community, and including other agencies that we work closely with. And we're just very thankful for the tremendous support that we have. Michelle also asked, can people at Opportunity Village transition to Emerald Village? In fact, several have. We have one right now who hopefully is in that process, who is going to be interviewed by the folks at Emerald Village. And if that goes well, we'll be able to transition from Opportunity Village to Emerald. Emerald Village and Cottage Village are both what are called leasehold co-ops. So we organize the village along the self-managed principle. We own the property, but we formed a co-op. The co-op operates it. They are their own landlord. So that means we can't simply say to whenever there's a vacancy at Emerald Village, great, let's take this person from Opportunity Village and move them over there. They have to go through that process and be accepted by that co-op at Emerald Village. And Emerald Village has a vetting committee. They have their own process. They make that decision on who comes into the village rather than us. But we assist with that. We help make those connections. And again, several of the folks over at Emerald Village are people who came from Opportunity Village. I remember in particular the case when we moved several people into Emerald Village, and one of them came from Opportunity Village. And we had a group of people there. This was before COVID, and celebrating open house kind of atmosphere, and handing her key to her home, and how she said, with tears streaming down her cheek, she thought literally she was going to spend the rest of her life living in a shelter. She had retired, only had Social Security income, and come to find out that wasn't enough to live on. She couldn't support herself. She lost her housing within a year. She camped out that summer, came to Opportunity Village, lived there for 2 years before moving to Emerald Village. And it was just so moving to see someone who, now be able to, have their own home that she can afford, she can pay for on her very modest income, due to the way that that's all structured. So it's a very powerful thing. Yes, that does happen. And as well as others that come from other places, we have people that were couch surfing, we had people living in vehicles, and people that were just inadequately housed wherever they were. One gentleman who was in a very in a bad situation, a domestic violence situation, who spoke of it as being a lifesaver, being able to have a place where he was safe, because he was dependent upon the other person who was abusing him for his living arrangement. So it truly is a life-saving program, as we heard Dina say, just to be able to give people that safe, secure place where they can be. You can sleep at night. You don't have to worry that anyone's going to, disrupt you in the middle of the night, require you to move or steal your stuff or what have you. And so that now you can begin to work on other things of getting, a job, getting things in order, finding other housing, because you're not living on the street anymore. So that may be all the questions. Again, we thank you for your support, and really appreciate the donations to help us provide this next amenity at the village, so that we can have heat in the winter, and make life just a little bit better for our friends at Opportunity Village. We appreciate all of the support that we've received from so many of you. Thank you very much, and we hope you have a wonderful evening.